Hey my amazing investors out there, welcome back to my channel once again. This is Abhishek, and did you miss this face? No? Expected that. But after watching this video, you won't just miss this face, but you will start liking it. Because I'm more than 100% sure guys that each one of you out there who will be watching this video will definitely benefit from it in some or the other way. How? Well, by knowing what not to do or by knowing what you should be doing to become like the professor. Okay, so the first thing is that guys, this video has been divided into two parts because while recording this, I realized that this video could easily cross 40 to 50 minute mark if I put everything together at once, and which is not a problem, but I know that many of my amazing investors out there will find it a bit long and they would try to skip it, thinking that they are finding the most important part which they would like to know. But trust me guys, with this process, you will miss many important parts. And trust me, I'm not saying this for the sake of watch time hours, because for these two videos, I honestly don't care about the watch time. What I instead care about is that you out there should get each and every detail what I have put together in this video. So that's why I have decided to divide it into two parts for the sake of your own benefit. Okay, so to start with a series of important messages, let's first start with one of the comments which was put by one of the persons on my very first video about how I bought my first real estate at the age of 30. So this guy commented that I will still be paying 350 euros from my own pocket to pay back to the bank every month. So according to the books, this is not a positive cash flow. He's right, but let's see this in another way. So the house which I'm living in is in Aschaffenburg. So for all my international viewers out there and some of the German viewers who are not aware about this city, Aschaffenburg is a city at a 40-minute drive distance from Frankfurt main city and at a 40-minute stretch from Frankfurt main international airport. So the location is quite good, and the house is in the center of the city. Now in the center of the city, the per meter square rent which we can get or which people have to pay could be around 11 to 12 euros. And this is not me saying, this is from the city office, which is legal, and you can easily find this information online with Mietspiegel. And that's what actually I'm also doing when I don't have the property description with the rent included in it. So I do this and I calculate my approximate cash flow, or let's say the approximate rent which I can get from that particular property. So anyways, the apartment which I'm living in, my apartment out of the 3 apartments in the whole building, is 65 meters square. And let's say, even if we don't take this 11 to 12 euros per meter square bracket, and if we take just 10 euros per meter square, which is on the lower side of the bracket, then also the cold rent, which I would have to pay if I was renting this apartment instead of buying it, then the cold rent will be 650 euros. Now, what I'm paying back to the bank? 350 euros. So just imagine guys, okay, it's not positive cash flow, but just see that I am paying 300 euros less than what I am supposed to pay in case if I was renting this particular apartment. And that's also on the lower side of the bracket. I would probably have to pay somewhere between 718 to 750 euros cold rent. So I'm saving somewhere between 300 and 400 euros per month. And forget the apartment, I'm paying 350 euros from my pocket and I'm owning the whole building. The whole building is mine. Do you get that? So don't always just check the book knowledge, positive cash flow. Yeah, positive cash flow is important, but this what I'm getting is a byproduct of profitability. And after 10 years, 15 years, so 10 years is my credit time for this particular house. After that, everything is positive cash flow, right? So you have to think about many other things. There are many ways that you can enter into a profitable deal, not just by creating positive cash flow, okay? And this is our first important message. So think out of the box, think about equity, think about, yes, positive cash flow, but think about the value of the house, which will be incrementing, and think about long term, okay? So this is what I wanted to tell you guys, which is quite important when you're investing in real estate and when you are not flipping. In case there are many other ways to get nice profits from real estate, flipping or buying the house, renovating it, selling it, refinancing, and many other stuff out there. But like I said, you have to think out of the box. Okay, and with that being said, let's jump on to the other part of this video. And in case if you guys are wondering that how actually I'm managing my down payments for all my houses, well, here's an example. So in other words, it's coming from the stock market, from all the gains which I'm making. And if you guys are in case interested in getting early calls for the stocks and want to learn about my investment portfolio and check my sell and buy signals, then you guys are most welcome to join our amazing Patreon family. And here are some of the very few examples from our patrons who did a really great job on my early buy signals. And therefore, if you want to achieve such gains, then you're most welcome to join our amazing family. Now, let's move on. So guys, this is the first outside look of the house which I recently bought, and we will be talking about this particular house. And here's the expose. So just to clarify this for my non-German speakers, this expose is just a property description, and let's say it's a synopsis which is made by the seller, of course, or the broker, with all the good points. And not just good points but also facts as well, but let's say in a way to attract the buyers. It is, let's say it is more like an appetizer. And as you can see, it is a multi-family house, Mehrfamilienhause in Triefenstein, and this is a small city just around 50 kilometers away from my place where I currently live. Okay, so here is the original price which was offered by the seller, and please keep this price in mind because we'll be using this price further in this video for our calculations. So as you can see, the Grundstück, which means the total land covered or the total property area spread, is 211 meters square, and the living area in that, which can be used for the tenants for living, is the Wohnfläche or the living space, is around 205 meters square. Now many of you I know who even have the slightest idea about real estate in Germany must already be seeing this as a golden deal, because for such a price, getting such a huge area, well guys, then wait for the numbers and you'll be flying with me. Anyways, so this building was made in 1974. Yes, it is old, but trust me guys, in Germany many old buildings are maintained really nicely, and this was as well renovated in 2019. Now this is a really important factor to consider if you're going in for an investment which is old. Okay, this building is not that old. There are many old buildings in Germany which are older than 100 years and they are covered in Denkmalschutz, but they are maintained really nicely, so you don't need to worry about the maintenance. But what you have to do is you should definitely check everything, and if you don't know what to check in such old buildings, then hire a professional, guys, called a Gutachter in German, who is an expert who checks the building and reveals in case of any renovations are needed in the near future or not. Of course he will charge, but then you will be ultimately satisfied in the end, and then you can actually use his results because it's an official result with his signatures, and these results might be very useful for you to negotiate the price. So that's a free tip from me for you guys. Okay, so anyways, moving on. So the building has 9 rooms in total. Zimmer in German means room, and I bought it via makler or a broker, so I had to pay a commission of 4%. Now guys, this 4% of commission was actually worth paying, and why? Well, you will see this during the numbers game ahead. Okay, so now coming on to one of the most interesting things and one of the most important things which I always consider before even going forward in considering to buy the property, which is the total incoming rent, because this amount will give us the final return on our investment, plus this amount will decide our cash flow. So the building has 3 apartments. Yes guys, you heard it right, it has 3 apartments, but this gets even better. So all the 3 apartments were already occupied, and these were the rent which were already being paid, and this rent was not changed since 7 years. Now this is quite common in Germany, and this is the key here. Because of no change in the rent, I was able to increase the rent by 5%. Now I did not change much because in Germany there is also a rule that you can legally increase the rent by 15% every 3 years, but also in some situations then you definitely must give a genuine reason that why you are increasing the rent to the tenants. Like in case you did a new paint or something or built something which was beneficial for the renters, then yes, you can justify increasing the rent by 15% or 10%, but usually you have to give a proper reason and you cannot just simply increase the rent, okay? Because the laws in Germany are more in favor for the renters. So anyways, I was able to increase the rent by 5% and that was enough for me to get a beautiful return for now. So guys, this is the first page of the Kaufvertrag or the buying contract, how in Germany it looks like. And as you can see, the first point is the seller's name and the address, and then at point number 2, that's me, my name and my current address, and this address is the first house which I bought and I made a video on. And yeah, so this is how the first page would look like in general for any buying contract in Germany. So guys, here's the Kaufvertrag page or the buying contract. It says it's the buying contract, and this is from the legal document which I received, and it shows that we are talking about the same building with the total property area of 211 meters square, and which I showed you in the beginning of this video. And the reason behind showing this page is that sometimes there might be weird comments, and I know it will happen after this video is released, that people might ask me that it's fake, you cannot find such a property in Germany and this and that. And I agree with them because it's unbelievable to get such a nice property with such good returns. But guys, it's possible. There are many properties out there, you just have to search for them. Anyways, so to avoid such comments, I mean, I cannot avoid them, but just to show them that here is the proof. So this is the legal document and it shows literally the same apartment, same building, I mean. And yeah, so here's the proof, guys. And now comes one of the best parts about this deal is the negotiation process. Now guys, this particular deal has so many amazing points that every point becomes best for me. So I should stop saying best and I should rather use better and better, because this deal becomes even better as we move ahead. So that's my name, Abhishek Thakur, who is the only sole owner of the whole building, who could buy the property for 210,000 euros. Now, if you guys remember from the beginning of this video, the original price of the house was 229,000 euros, which means that after the negotiation process, I could buy this property for 19,000 euros less than the original price, which is amazing, guys. Isn't it amazing? And that's what made this deal even more profitable for me. And that brings us to our first numbers game. So the original price of the house was 229,000 euros, and after the negotiation the price was 210,000 euros, which is the actual buying price for me, which gives me a profit straight away of 19,000 euros. And I love to see this. Anyways, so the closing cost or the Nebenkosten, which are the side cost, was around 22,000 euros, which we also consider as the down payment or the capital, which is around 10 to 15% of the actual price of the house. And this actually depends and varies from city to city. And I will show you an example of this anyways. So the total core rent before raising up to 5% was 1,250 euros per month. And that means the total core rent annually becomes 15,000 euros. And this is, again guys, to clarify this is before raising the rent by 5%. Okay, so moving on, expenses from my pocket annually can be up to 2,000 euros. Now guys, this is literally an extreme case. And trust me, because normal site costs for me as an owner to pay per year would be maximum 1,000 euros. And this is according to the history of the bills which I got from the previous owner. But I'm considering, let's say, small repairs every year, which of course won't happen every year, but still, to take a safer and a much more conservative approach, I'm taking 2,000 euros as my total expenses as an owner. And I will show you in a while what these expenses actually consist of. So my raw return on my investment before any negotiation and the old rent would be around 15,000 euros by the total price of the house, the old price of the house, or the original price which was offered by the seller, 229,000 euros, which gives me an amazing return on my investment of over 6%. So this is what I consider an amazing return. And guys, this is a raw return. And this is my first rule of investment in real estate. Look at the raw return. That means the total incoming rent, which is already there, divided by the original price which is offered by the seller. So when you receive such an expose or the property description, calculate this, and that is the raw return. Okay, so just to explain this in simple words, let's say that you send an email to a broker or a seller, yeah, and then the seller sends you this expose or the property description. And now you want to know how much rent is you can get from that particular property. You can of course ask the broker, they will tell you. But you can, let's say, also use Mietspiegel, which is called the rent index, and you can find it online. So Mietspiegel.de, whatever, and put the city name, and you can find the rent index, legal rent index, what you can get out from that particular property in that particular area. Now of course it depends on many other factors, how old is the building, and if it's furnished you can get a bit higher rent. But anyways, so this is what I usually do. So if I don't have the rent defined in this property description, I calculate myself. Of course that will be an approximate value, but enough to give you an idea of your rent index and the total rent which you can get from that particular property. Now guys, I'm just taking a random example to show you guys what site cost would look like in Germany, and I found this random example when I was searching online. So this came out to be first option, and I didn't want to waste much time, so I just chose this. So as you can see, it's not the same house. As you can see, the buying price is different. So this is just to give you guys an idea. So these are the site cost or the Nebenkosten called in German, and these are the extra cost which always comes with buying a property. And doesn't matter where you are buying a property, in Germany, in Europe, in any part of the world, you would have to pay these taxes for sure. The taxes might differ from country to country, but you would have these taxes or these site costs. So in Germany, let's say the first one is the Makler Provision, means the broker commission. So if you don't have a broker, then this becomes 0, but in my case it was 4% like you saw. So usually it can range from 3 to 6%. It depends upon city to city or different states. Then comes the Grunderwerbsteuer, which means the property transfer tax, and this also differs from state to state. Then comes the Notarkosten, which means the notary fees, and this also differs from city to city, but it's not a big difference as compared to Grunderwerbsteuer and Makler Provision. And last but not the least comes the Grundbucheintrag. That means your name will be registered in the land registry document, and that's around 0.5%. So if you remember, I paid around 22,000 euros for all these site costs, and these are the site costs which you would have to pay always, and it can be from 8% till 15% depending upon which city and which state you are living in. And in some cities it might be more expensive, in some cities it might be less expensive. So according to that, these costs may vary. Now most of the times it's better if you can arrange this part of the money, which is these Nebenkosten, by yourself. That means you are paying this amount to the bank in the first hand. But let's say in some special scenarios, in some cases, you can also get the loan or credit for this amount as well. In Germany we say 110%. Yeah, so 10% is the side cost, so you can get that money as well. But remember guys, that money which you will get from any bank would be at a really high interest. So for example, if you're getting a complete credit for 1.1% or 1.818%, as you can see right here. So these are some examples. These are the interest rates when you have paid this amount plus an Eigenkapital, that means the down payment or equity payment. Then only you can get this much interest rate on your loan or on your credit. So this is really important. So the more security you show to the bank, the more amount of money you bring with yourself, the less interest you have to pay. That's normal logic. Yeah. And in case if you don't have this, plus you even don't have the side cost, then you can get a complete credit. But guys, remember, for that your Schufa and your Bonität should be really good, and you should have a really good income to really finance this amount plus this amount together. But the downside is that For this amount, the side cost, if you want to get the credit for the side cost, that might come with a really high interest rate, and this interest rate can vary from 5% up to 8% as well. Okay, so we covered the side cost, which you would definitely need before you own the property, and this can come via extra credit or the money you saved over the years. And now comes the side cost, which you would have to pay from your pocket after you own the property every year, and which I showed you an extreme example of 2000 euros per year. So what exactly these side costs contain? So the side cost after you own a house or an apartment is called Hausgeld. Now the Hausgeld can be divided into three categories. First one is Betriebskosten or operating costs like Abfallkosten or garbage, heating cost, building or house insurance, electricity of the common area like if the house has a staircase or something, and the Hausmeister or caretaker if there is any caretaker which you have appointed, or if there's a big building which has multiple apartments and you are an owner of just a single apartment, then you would have to pay for the Hausmeister as well, or the Gartenpflege or the garden care if the house has any garden, etc. And this money actually you can deduct while you do your tax declaration at the end of the year. Okay, so the second type of cost is called Instandhaltungskosten or the maintenance cost. Now this money you cannot declare in the taxes because these are the future cost. So for example, if the roof needs to be replaced after 10 years or changed after 10 years, then only after 10 years when you do the change, then you can apply this for your tax declaration. So these are the maintenance costs, and these are the costs which I considered extra, and I put 1000 euros extra per year, and that's why my extra cost became 2000 euros per year, which I have to pay from my pocket. But these costs, guys, remember, these costs won't come every single year. You are just saving up the money, and you can of course invest it somewhere else, and that makes it much better. So anyways, we are taking a more conservative approach, so that's why I consider 2000 euros per year as my total side cost as an extreme case. So anyways, then comes the Verwaltungskosten or the administrative cost. So for example, I have a Hausverwaltung for my first property which have 3 apartments as well, because there was a Hausverwaltung or an administrator who was managing the whole building before I bought this house. So I didn't want to cancel it, and it's actually really easy, but it's expensive. But for the new house, I don't have any Hausverwaltung. That means I will be managing everything by myself. Now it's a bit hectic because I would have to travel a bit more, but I would not have to travel so often because the house is in a good condition, and at the end of the year I would be doing all the financing, so it's just 1 or 2 times per year, so it's worth the effort, and I would not be spending every month for the administrator. So these administrative costs can become quite expensive, but if you are going in for an apartment, a single apartment in a multi-story building, then you cannot avoid this because the whole building committee decides to have an administrator, and it needs, when it's a multi-story building and when it has more than 30 or 40 apartments, it does need an administrator, and you would have to pay the administrative cost or the Hausverwaltung cost from your own pocket. So that's why owning a small apartment in a multi-story building can be really expensive, especially this Hausgeld. Then also includes the elevator cost, maintenance cost, which comes under the maintenance cost, and it becomes really expensive. So this is a small hint or a tip for you guys. If you are looking forward to buy an apartment, please think twice before you are going to buy an apartment in a multi-story building. Anyways, so let's move on. Okay guys, so here's an example of the side cost from one of my apartments. Now of course these side costs can definitely vary from house to house depending upon various factors, but this is just to give you guys a raw idea that what side costs you would have to pay for your apartment or a building. And of course there could be extra side cost added to this list as well, like I showed you. For example, in case of an elevator, or if there's a garden, then maintenance cost for the garden, and then of course the list becomes bigger and bigger. So here are some of the examples, like Grundsteuer, that means the property tax; Gebäudeversicherung, that means the insurance of the building; then Haftpflichtversicherung, which is also a kind of insurance; then Müllgebühr, which means garbage disposal, and so on and so on. So this is really important for you to consider, because then only you can get a real cash flow amount. And remember guys, this is the annual amount. The 1200 euros which you see here is actually the annual amount, and you won't be paying this whole amount by yourself, okay? Because the tenants would be paying you as well. And that's why we call it a warm rent. Okay, so warm rent includes the cold rent, the basic rent, plus a part of the side cost. So you would be getting a bit of money from the renters as well. So some of the costs you can actually book from the renters, but some of the costs you would have to pay by yourself at the end of the year. And that's why I considered 2000 euros as an extreme case, because no way I would reach 2000 euros per year. But let's say in case of maintenance, it can happen even more, but that's why I'm taking 2000 euros annually, so that let's say if I would have to do some emergency renovations, then it might cost up to 5,000 or 10,000 euros as well. And that's why let's say I'm saving 1000 euros every year for such maintenance. But of course, like I mentioned this before as well, that if I'm investing that 1000 euro annually somewhere else, then I would be increasing my return on my investment. So anyways, we are taking a conservative approach to show you guys the power of finding amazing deal. Okay, so now to continue with our numbers game. So now we know that I was able to increase the rent by 5%, like I mentioned earlier in this video, which actually gives me now a total annual rent of 16,440 euros. Now we know the buying price was 210,000 euros. Therefore, my raw return on my investment becomes 7.8%, guys, and this is huge. But that's not it. Now we know that my cash flow annually is 16,440 euros, which is the annual total rent minus the annual side cost, which is 2000 euros, which gives me an ROI after expenses of 7%. Now guys, even from the stock market, you may get this return if you invest consistently. This is the key. If you invest consistently from the biggest blue chip companies, 7 to 8% annual return, or on ETFs, annual return of 7 to 8% is considered good. And getting an annual return of 7% after expenses from real estate is just amazing. Okay, so now let's take the next scenario, which is also my case, and I guess many of you, or let's say all of you guys who are watching this video, would be taking this way. That means taking a credit or a loan or mortgage for buying your next real estate. So I took credit for 30 years at an interest rate of 1.1% for 210,000 euros. Now guys, there's a mistake further in this video, and the amount which you will see here would be 188,000 euros, but please ignore that. The correct amount is 210,000 euros, but it won't matter anyways, because we know that the buying price is 210,000 euros, and we will use that number anyways further in this video for our future calculations. Now my monthly mortgage payment is around 900 euros. Now this monthly payment consists of two parts. One is the principal amount and the other one is interest, and then you can divide this, like for example in this case 2% principal amount and 1% interest rate, or 3% principal amount and 1% interest rate, and so on and so on. But how? Well, the first basic idea would be given to you by your bank. So your bank will take your income, your fixed income, from wherever it's coming. If you are a self-employed or if you are employed by a company, then you have a fixed income, yeah, and you must have a fixed income, otherwise it becomes difficult to get such credits. Anyway, so the bank will check your fixed income, and then the bank will deduct your monthly expenses, like your living expenses, your gym, your food, your commuting expenses, your fuel, and in case if you have some other credit, then that should also be considered. And then the bank will give you a lump sum, let's say monthly mortgage payment amount, and then you can actually play with it. So it's your decision then to pay either less than that or a bit higher than that. Higher can be a bit difficult because bank needs security that you should be able to pay that, but definitely you can go on the lower side. But of course it should be a logical amount. Like for example in my case, let's say the bank gave me an amount of 1000 euros and I said I would like to pay just 900 euros. I cannot go like I would like to pay just 200 euros. So it should be logical. Okay, so anyways, moving on. So my monthly expenses, like we saw earlier, was annual side expenses were around 2000 euros. So if you divide it by 12, we get monthly expenses of 167 euros. And this gives me my cash flow of 303 euros. My monthly core rent of 1370 euros minus my total monthly expenses, which includes my mortgage payment plus my monthly side cost. And I get a positive cash flow of 303 euros per month. And now comes the best part. So when we are buying a real estate, we are leveraging, yeah? So the return on my leverage would be my positive annual cash flow divided by the down payment which I made, and that gives me an annual return after all my expenses of 17%. But that's not it. Like I said, those expenses were extreme expenses, so the logical annual return which I'm expecting would be around 21%, guys. And this is the power of leveraging, which you can only achieve via real estate. So this is what I'm trying to say. So what leveraging means, that I paid just from my pocket an amount of 22,000 euros and I could buy a property of 210,000 euros. So I'm leveraging the difference. And then if I calculate my positive cash flow and I just divide it by the payment which I did from my pocket, and based on that, I'm getting an annual return of 21%. So you saw that a return from 7% to a leverage annual return of 21%. I mean, that's the power of real estate. And in this return, I have not considered the equity. So that means as the years will pass by, I would be paying more and more of my principal amount. That means my equity will be increasing. And if I also bring my equity into the picture, of course, my return on my investment will increase, plus my return on my leverage will also increase drastically. And that's what I call an amazing investment. And that's it, guys. That's all for today, and I hope that you really loved this video. And if you did, then please like, okay? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, guys, then what are you waiting for? Come on, be the part of the family. Let's be together. Let's spread peace, love, and let's earn some money. So see you in the next one. Ciao.